Yeah, I know. All right, I want to thank you guys for coming through. Make sure you hit the like button upon coming in so that way we can get this thing started. So that way, and there's no need to miss any words here, but I will go over this. What's going on, Darren McKinney? What's going on, Major Pain Dies? Hit a one in the chat, you'll be able to hear me. Hit a one in the chat, you can be able to hear me. Turn off this Wi-Fi. All right, let's get started. Can the Black Manosphere um, exist without the support of Black women? Uh, that's not the question that's on the table. That's not the question that's on the table. Just got to watching the breakdown show with Concrete George, and we got to keep it real with something here. What are these content creators doing to support men? They're not doing anything to support men, by the way. They're not. Like, they have an actual platform because of weak ass men running shit and running things into the ground. They didn't bother having all productive brothers because most of these women don't care about productive men at all. They care about these thirsty, shiftless, Bravo Alpha Novembers because that is the standard of masculinity today. A shiftless person with no type of morals, no type of scruples, no type of anything. And these people want to lead ineffectual, inexperienced men back into the baseline point of what started this stuff a generation ago. Okay, let's talk about some movements here. Let's talk about the civil rights movement, for instance. An actual movement that needed both black women and black men to work together with other groups of people in order to do things. When you talk about institutional support, those people were actually supporting each other for an end goal. The only thing that seems to be happening here is platforming bullshit artists because it celebrates their potential power in the environment itself. Like, the women wouldn't have any type of position within a quote unquote black manosphere if it wasn't for men who were severely neglected by the same women that they claim to be community minded for. What's going on, Kevin C? What's going on, Garfield Lawson? What's going on, XC? All right, so that's not support. That's not support. Like, when you have a BGS Itmore who these reptiles go out and actually interview about the fucking manosphere while forgetting about the productive brothers, what does that say about these actual women that are here? If you deliberately go out and interview men that are not in a position, that are not running shit in society, why would you go out and interview weak ass fucking men with no results of any kind? Why would you go out and intentionally do that? Here's the thing: most of these men here, you cannot help and you cannot save because most of these people aren't even trying to get their shit together. They're not. Like, the manosphere and the women are actually an unindicted co-conspirator. just like they was when they destroyed the black family, by the way. Like the women actually rearranged the black family by giving sexual access to the type of men that they know would not allow them to raise their kids to be productive people. And it's no different today. Like they're not going to give their attention and their power to men who got their shit together. They're going to give their attention and power to men who don't. Again, this is his own thing onto himself. You can't say that the people here are leading anywhere else. Like if you took the complaints about the black woman out of the quote unquote black manosphere, there would be nothing else to talk about. Again, it's not hard to go out and get your shit together. It's also not hard to stay away from problematic women. It's also not hard to stay away from problematic people. Because remember, you were all alone at first, then these people found they tried. And yes, knowing the actual answers to the end of a situation was what most of these people wanted. But like like the red pill, like everything else, having the information is only one side of the equation. What you do with the information after you get the information actually says where your ass is going to go. It's all right. So again, the purpose of the Black Manosphere was not empowering men to talk about women. That was not what this shit was about. It was about giving advanced knowledge of everybody else's failures so that way we could be a better group by taking better individual actions in our own lives. That's the whole point of the Black Manosphere. That's the whole point of Black Manosphere 1.0. Now, everybody thought in Black Manosphere 2.0 that that was going to build on that, but slowly we started to know that most of these people here was here to collect a check, both men and the women alike. Why? Because it's too easy. It's too easy to take simps money. Simps actually power the actual manosphere itself. Broken men without their shit together power the actual black manosphere. That's the way it is right now. Because if you take people from mainstream black America or even white America who don't really got their shit together, the moment you corner them on what they're actually doing, they can't wait to tell you about how many mythical women that they've got access to inside of this environment itself. Which I don't think is an accomplishment because these women are easy. They would damn near be with anyone who approaches them. But what's the long time efficacy of keep going through that system over and over again? There's nothing. Dude, you don't need women's support in order to get your shit together. The problem is you want this type of woman to be walking beside you like Jesus and the footprints in the sand shit. That's what you want. You want a woman to celebrate your non-productive, dumb ass while you ain't got shit. You want her to give up ultimate power in order to just be with you while you get your shit together. Dude, that doesn't make any sense, man. It doesn't make any sense. I say that the black manosphere gave women exactly what they wanted. A position to where they can act like they're actually concerned about the men while enriching themselves. Now people are like, oh, why they're interviewing Obsidian? Obsidian is no different than the women who come here and do the same exact shit as Obsidian. Obsidian's here for a check. Shout out to him. He's always told you that. He's always told you that. But it just goes to show you who do they want to talk to? They want to talk to people who's about a check because they here for a check as well. So, thank you for the $5 super chat. Like you have to realize that most of these women, if not all of them, at this point, are just as full of shit as Obsidian. The thing is that's different about Obsidian than the actual women. Kevin C, thanks for the oh boy, 150 something super sticker. Thanks so much. What's going on, Village Arsonist? All right, man. So you have to understand. Do you think that these women, if they had sons, do you think they would actually send their sons to the likes of most of these content creators that are here within this space to help their son get to the next level in life? The answer is they probably would never do that. But as long as you can keep offering people BS nonsense and get attention for doing so, that's what it is. Like I've never understood the actual community minded reference coming out of the mouths of the women who don't give shit here. Yeah, I know. I know. But hey, look, there's two different manospheres though. There's two different manospheres, and there's two different black manospheres. The one black manosphere is the original intent. The second black manosphere is the compromised purpose. Most women here support the compromised purpose of the manosphere because as long as they're weak ass men who don't have their shit together and who have less than ideal definitions of masculinity, and they go listen to the most non-productive people in Black America to actually get their stuff together, that helps the women more than it helps the men. Because the women are only here to maintain their source of power. They're not trying to give away their power that they got, that was assigned to them by men. Again, from 1970 to 2020, that's 50 years of data. 50 years of actually on TV, watching black men and black women argue about things that black men did not want to change. At that point in 1970, you should have walked away from the table. If this is what they wanted to do with the future of black America, then you should have walked away from the table then. So, what were the good women supposed to do back then if their numbers were actually higher than most of these other women? Those women who didn't respect the family model went out and deliberately over procreated a specific type of damaged individual all over the black community. They deliberately did that on purpose. Yep. The only community that women care about is the community bank accounts they can make a withdrawal from. Yes, the collective, actual inputs of others to support themselves. I do agree with you, Isaac. Charles Key Sr. Yeah, Passport Bros are here too. Yeah. You see, the problem that we have is that people don't understand what institutional support is like and what institutional support is about. Me, I'm in the transportation industry. Most of the people who I get my loads from in this industry are from black women. I'll be very transparent and upfront with you with that. When it comes to getting institutional actual help from banks or banking, you know where I go to? A black woman that I've known for 25 years. Every black man that I ever met in a banking setup was always on some white man conservative shit, giving you incorrect information, not really leading you down the path of actually building your business credit properly, all that shit. So I know what institutional support is, and I know what institutional support is not. So what you got to understand is that this talk about community is bullshit. That's what it is. They're looking for dumbass men who want to cash in on the previous deal that they know is not going to work. What's called Gemini 605. Okay, all this relationship talk, all this SBE, who does that support? You really think that supports men? That doesn't support men. It doesn't support men at all. What it does is it gives broken women the actual idea that they can still be normalized in front of the face of inexperienced men. And then you have people who failed in life with this woman who's trying to organize this car crash between those type of women and inexperienced men. What's going on, Deacon David Little? What's going on? So this is where we currently are. So when you see women trying to empower the same type of men that gave them power in the first place, this is on purpose. What's wrong, Jermaine Taylor? This is on purpose. I'm not saying that I won't or should even have an interview with these individuals and respond, but they got to be smart enough not to put these people on in the first place because everybody has clearly decided to walk away from legit criticism. They decided to walk away from reality. They decided to not build their own power. They decided to not invest into the productivity piece. They decided to invest into the broken woman. Most of these people, you can't even talk to them about things about leadership or power or anything else. Why? That's too restrictive for them. That is way too restrictive for them. And yes, most of the men are trying to compromise this space just like the women are. Okay, it's very easy. The only thing you have to do with all these questions that are asked, a question that has never been asked, a question that's never been asked. How long is it going to take for you to reach your end goal? All these questions, that is never a question that has ever been asked. What's the timeline? How do you know that your plan is actually working? All these questions, but you can't ask those questions? What's wrong with Quiz the Prince? What's wrong with King Hotel? So you have to understand this and this up front. Most of these individuals came here to hang out. Just like those individuals look at their house in the community that was not a trap house 6 months ago, clearly see all the fun going on in that house and in that community and want to hang out there now. They know what it was before. They actually do. But what it has turned into now is something that you cannot deny. Strong spawn program, strong Rob T. But this is where we're at right now. So now we have to sit here and play stupid. Like we don't know how we got here. Like that wasn't a Manosphere 1.0. Because these women did not try to go interview anybody from Manosphere 1.0, did they? Hell no. They always trying to interview these men from Manosphere 2.0. when they know what man is on what shit, but they still refuse to do so. This is why I keep telling you that most of these women are not your friends. They are environmentally created sociopaths. Environmentally created with an entire lifestyle that is 100% about maintaining the current level of position that they have going on the go. And they will say anything to your face to make it look like that's not the case. They will use any weak man. They will weaponize any weak man. They will give attention to any weak man. They will knight him as an actual force to be used against the rest of men. And they do it on purpose. Again, it's the women who replace the actual man in the household. What's going on, Yuri? It's not that many people who want this type of change. I'm just telling you, it just is not that many people. Well, the cynical one. Manosphere 1.0 was the individuals who came here to actually discuss things in the way that I'm discussing them. Other than me and maybe five other content creators, my actual content is Manosphere 1.0 content. All this relationship talk and bullshit, that's Manosphere 2.0. Bringing the wrong type of woman back to the table and focusing on her needs rather than focusing on men's needs and what men need to be doing. Manosphere 2.0 was bringing compromise back to the table and trying to get men to understand broken women. So that's the difference. Even though I did come from Manosphere 2.0. Because I did thought after the discussion of this woman ad nauseum, there was going to be some type of action. Yeah, I mean, because Angel Ramirez was like 1.0 SBE. He was the SBE king. Angel Ramirez, Jordan. He was. And while those numbers were very small, especially compared to 6 or 7 years in the future where we are now, that's just the way it was. I mean, you had people jumping on panels trying to humanize Cynthia G rather than just leaving her the fuck alone. Then I realized, oh no, these people want some of that G thing. They want Cynthia G. They don't want submission and all this shit. They want submission from people that they know they shouldn't be receiving it from. Trust me, if she's coming back to the table to give up power, man, look, she deserved to have the whole hog out of whoever's going to accept that shit at this point. But at the end of the day, you still could have got your shit together. Remember, most of these women didn't even respect the productivity piece. They didn't care about it. They did not care about it at all. They only cared about the productivity piece, as Isaac said earlier, as long as you was a universal bank account to where they could infinitely withdraw without any type of putback, that's what it was. That's why they followed these women with these countermeasures. It wasn't the fact that, oh wow, this woman is fucking crazy. I'm gonna stay away from that. Those people looked at these women and they clearly said, not only is she crazy, but I'm gonna sit here until this woman gives up her thirst for downing and all this shit of black men. Most of them dudes sat there and waited for that shit. They sat there and they waited for it. That's my point that I'm getting to later on. So, without the black woman and the things that she do to a man, culturally speaking, within this environment, there would be no manosphere. Because that's why we're all here in the first place. Because we were here to understand and then move on. But then again, we got overrun by the I understand and and I accept my position. That's what the problem is. People understand now they've accepted their position. I don't know about that. I don't know about the real boss. I mean, this is something that is never really openly debated. Like there is no open debate about where the black manosphere should go. That's why they want to compromise the audience and leave it up to the compromise of the audience about where the space should be going. And this is why most people don't even respect the but black manosphere like that. They don't. But these people don't care about that type of respect because this is where they make their bones. And it's not much money that they pull out of this space. It really isn't. However, it's more money that they would be able to make on their own, focusing on productive things. Dollar Washer, I agree with you. There's two manospheres, two black manospheres. One where the women run shit, and one where the women clearly don't. Most of these people, whether it's the game dudes, where it's the fake players, the fake pimps, the fake street dudes who want to actually come by and compromise the same broken men into empowering women, all that shit, it's the same. Ineffectual PhDs, people who don't take a side, people don't want to organize on their own power. Like, dude, all of this shit is 50 shades of the same Bravo Alpha November. It's the same thing over and over again. It's the same running interference over and over again. What's going on, Sheila here? The thing is, no one, no one invites on the truth as I know it. No one invites that guy on. Talk about this shit. No one invites me on. No one invites the Black Brain Trust on. Nobody invites it on. You want to know why? We're talking about getting our own shit together, and we're not talking about empowering women. And we don't need women as the reason why we're doing content. But the women are choosing to empower men that is a immediate reflection of what they are. You can't be afraid of that. Uncle Stu, yeah. They don't invite Uncle Stu on. A man who has the conservative upbringing, who is a political conservative, a man who has the actual black household that y'all claim y'all want, successful children, but no one is interviewing these people. None of these women are even talking to these people. Most of these women are just thirst trapping for money. And they want to get mad when there's a white woman who does the same shit that they're doing, but she's being more successful at it than they are. Again, most of these women in this environment, if you ain't offering reinforcements, it's all talk. But it has a specific outcome towards it. If you can lead a bunch of men into the wrong direction, they will continue to produce outcomes that benefit them overall. It's a numbers game. It is clearly a numbers game. The grand majority of people are not trying to get their shit together. Those grand majority of people who don't get their shit together has a false sense of masculinity. That false sense of masculinity is going to have them team up with the wrong type of woman. Teaming up with that wrong type of woman is going to create the wrong type of kid. That wrong type of kid created in that environment that should never been created is going to create the majority of bitch ass niggas that we have right now. And that's what you have right now. Yes. They're only mad that Pearly Things is really giving men what they want. A woman that agrees with everything they say. And guess what? It's still bullshit. But see, there's something deep and wrong with black women that they can't agree with black men on that level. Even though they desperately know that's what they want, she's not doing anything extraordinary. And it hurts even more because she's not all that good looking. That's why it hurts more. Because she's not all that good looking, but she give the people exactly what they want, and the women can't stand that shit. They can't stand it. So they think that what she's doing is a level of betrayal, but what they're doing is also a level of betrayal too. Because she took it one bullshit further. Now these women here talking about how married they are and how community minded they are and all this stupid shit, all these thirsty ass dudes everywhere who would do anything for a whiff of the actual figure of a black woman. Like standing around these fucking dudes isn't a level of success for them. It isn't. But as long as they still pointing in the wrong direction, they're still going to recreate all the problems that are here now. The black manosphere is codependent upon the black woman. Why do you think there's this focus on entertainment news? Because most entertainment news is always based on somebody's relationship going bad. And they can't wait to cover it as soon as it does go bad. You want to know why? They want to hyperinflate all failure with relationships across the entire populace of men. Do they follow up behind Denzel Washington and his wife? No. You want to know why? Denzel Washington ain't having the shit that's going on in this household that these other people are. No one's trying to follow up Denzel Washington and this quote unquote conservative household that he has. You don't know shit about their relationship, but it appears to be working. What gets all the focus? All the focus go toward things that don't work right. Yes, and all these fake women who don't give you shit. Like you think fake representation is real representation. You make it very easy for women to take advantage of you. And yes, you do need the women here. I'm going to say it again. You do need the women here. So that way you can see the level of compromise there is among men. You need to see that level of compromise among most men. So that way it is normalized to you to stay away from such individuals. But that's the problem. People actually think that the Crimson Cure telling you that her own women ain't shit that looks like her, but somehow not providing you any level of other women to fucking deal with is somehow a success story for men. It's not. It's literally not. But that's what some of these conservative men, so-called conservative men, want to listen to. And that's what they fund. And you cannot blame the content creator. You can only blame the audience. How long you think it would survive for a black woman in an actual black environment to go around said also black environment saying that her own kind ain't shit? That woman wouldn't survive 24 hours in an environment like that before the women beat the brakes off her motherfucking ass. But when you have a group of compromised men, severely neglected men who freely sign up and fund this type of bullshit, you can't blame the women because it's codependent upon the women. Again, you don't need the representation of women to help you get your shit straight. Getting your shit straight is a masculine responsibility. And yes, being disciplined enough to stay away from this stuff, but keeping a close eye on how this stuff happens so that way you can warn others. Yes, that's also how this system works. Because here's the thing, women who are actually doing what the hell they need to be doing, they don't have enough time to come fight men's battles. They have enough time to fight their battles inside their house. Oh, second, that was, yeah, that was my fault. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Yeah, that was my fault. I got a phone call that came in. But that's what you guys have got to understand at this point. At this point, this shit is on purpose. At this point, this shit is on purpose. Not focusing on what you need to be focusing on, that is on purpose. Following up behind unfeminine women online, trying to track down everything that they say about the about whatever she's talking about, that's on purpose. All women are not going to be perfect until you move on to a better choice and option of women. The only thing these dudes are doing is they're bringing compromise into the actual forefront to draw you off sides. That's the point here. You never needed black women supporting the black manosphere. You never needed that. These women have a platform because you ain't doing what the fuck you need to be doing as a man. That's why they have platforms. Treating you like shit. And yes, you do deserve it. You could have bolted the door closed with focusing on the productivity piece and actually focusing on the things that you need to be doing. But the point is, most of these dudes just wanted to talk to women online because that's power to a bitch ass nigga. Talking to women online. That has nothing to do with you getting your shit straight and keeping your shit straight. Nothing to do with it at all. They gave her the actual business model. But that's what they want. They want this cyclical failure. Because at the end of the day, these people will pay for temporary comfort. They will pay for temporary comfort with super chat money rather than take the free resources out there provided by the fucking government to get their shit together long term. I'm going to say it again. They'll pay for temporary comfort rather than spend the time on free shit to get their shit together forever. It's all complex. That ain't nothing you can help. That ain't nothing you can save. That ain't nothing you can team up with. That ain't nothing you can leverage. I don't think that's true, Infinity. I don't think that's true. I think they run an entertainment show that is very entertaining at times, but it's very telling the type of comments you see in the comment section. So yes, you could have always moved on without these things. No, you don't need more fake avatars of women coming out here saying how much they love black men and how much they support black men. Fuck that. If she ain't in your house, then she's not really supporting you all that much. Because trust me, women get support. Oh, shit. Shit, my tablet turned on for some second for some reason. I hate when YouTube does that. It just turns on something and just start playing stuff for no reason. Let's go on and check it for you. But this is what it is. You know what type of future that you want to create. Your life is the actual example of what you intend to multiply. Because you can't say you have all these good ass intentions, but you ain't the results of those intentions itself. Most of these people just want a release valve to temporarily feel like they're powerful than they clearly are, only to go back to them sad, sick circumstances the moment the live stream's over. What's going on, Rona? This ain't it. It's more individual. It's more individual based. It's more individual based. If all of these complaints are about a specific system, and if white men and white women are not trying to organize to get rid of this child support system, if they're not organizing to get rid of this divorce system, if you're not building coalitions, if you're not building up any type of power to challenge power, all this shit is for naught. It's more individual and it's more household based. There's no such thing as saying that you support the family around a bunch of people who don't have access to that. Yes, that's all it is. Negro escapism. Just like the Cosby Show. They go through a whole bunch of bullshit on the show, but they don't talk about any real shit on the show. A whole bunch of Negro escapism. When none of these dudes were Heathcliff Huxtable, and none of these women were Claire Huxtable. Again, it's all fake. It's all image. That's why bullshit artists want to build up this fake ass image. Image is the opposite of substance. You become a bottom feeder. You become a person who strictly stays around broken individuals, and you cannot have any type of collective success take hold within the environment. Especially when we hyper focus on the wrong type of women that you don't want to be with. But as it turns out, all these people want to be with this type of woman. Trust me, everybody know what the right thing is by this time. Yeah, I agree with you, Checker. Yes, but at this point, how long are you gonna keep trying to escape reality? Because it's either two things you can escape. You can escape reality, or you can really have your shit together to where you're not worried about reality. A lot of people pick the former rather than the latter, and they sign up for it every single day. They sure did. They sure did. And you can't say that's what happens within this environment. You can't say that. The women are choosing the platform dudes that they know are on some bullshit. They're choosing to do that. But that's the thing, man. It's like, dude, listen. This whole idea of society has been bred out of these people. Like if you look at what a natural apple looked like before it was actually bred into the apple to create a certain type of shape, that's exactly what the men are. The men were bred specifically in an environment and taught not to master the environment by the bitch ass nigga who had the kid with the woman that didn't want to have a family. That's on purpose too. Because women are not going to give up the power that they were freely given to them that benefit them. That's a good point. They decided to do this on their own. And they want to make the decision that they made to do this on their own everybody else's problem. Yeah. That shit would sound crazy, wouldn't it, Ronan? Yeah. Women are going to do whatever they can to get free attention, man. Just like Alan Roger Curry used to say, no free attention. But yet he came to a space that did nothing but give women free attention and how he benefited off women getting free attention. It just doesn't make any sense. At the end of the day, they are encouraging you to hold your own self hostage. That's right. You're trying to hold your own self hostage and you expect everybody to save you from things that you put yourself into. Yeah. Because look, you never had me coming online complaining about women. I know what women to stay away from. I'm not stupid. Listen, it doesn't matter how they look, it matters how things operate. Clearly, how things operate matter a lot. How things operate is how you're going to get the most out of it. How things look, that's the image piece. Because there's a lot of good looking pieces of shit in this fucking space. Let me tell you. Outwardly wholesome, inwardly rotten. Outwardly wholesome, inwardly rotten to the core. But at the end of the day, all these people would spend life and limb just to get access to them. And is willing to pay long term consequences for the rest of their life for temporary access. You can't help people like that. Yes. I would say unearned attention over bullshit is a hell of a drug. I would say that. Now you have to remember this whole content creation strategy is based around covering bullshit and nonsense all day. Because remember, there's always going to be a new celebrity breakup happening. There's always going to be a new celebrity, big time, multi-million-dollar divorce that's always happening. There's always going to be somebody in the news who's getting lied on about their actual spouse or girlfriend. It's always going to keep happening over and over again. There's always going to be another opportunist who come through and do the things better than people did it before. You're always going to find a better opportunist with that. Did you see it with the passport movement? One minute it's about dudes traveling and getting their shit together. Next minute it's about going to all these motherfucking sexual tourism hotspots and pretending like you are not engaging in that shit, even though you're taking your ass over there. Then once you go from that, next thing you know, you got the game dudes in here. Next thing you know, you go after that, you're actually fighting the actual gender war while meshing all that together into one specific purpose. Again, you not having a very sense of where you want to be at will always get you compromised by these bullshit artists that fly in overnight. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Because the black manosphere has to leverage failure. And that's what the two parts of the manosphere are. So there is manosphere productive and then there's manosphere unproductive. They know the type of men that they want to bring on that serves their actual purpose. I'm sorry, but if I actually have failed in my relationship and a woman has me on child support and I'm pissed off about that, the last thing I need to be doing is trying to figure out why am I broadcasting that level of failed message to the rest of my brethren. That would look crazy. That would look really crazy if that was me. But that's what you have. That's what the problem is here. The problem is that they're not going to put men on who actually support where the actual men need to be. They're going to empower the weak men that keeps them in power. Yes, there's no leveraging of success within the space. It's only a leveraging of failure. And some people would say, as BGS keeps going around to other platforms, thinking that this is about building a platform and building up numbers based off the collective failure of men in the environment. Like we all came to the Black Manosphere so that way we can have a large ass content following and not leading them anywhere. That's not what the fuck everybody came here for, man. A lot of people like myself came here to warn people about the problems in society, and subsequently they was going to decide to go towards it or not. Now, keep it real, most of these people decided that they didn't want to move forward. They didn't want to build power. They didn't want to learn how things work. They just wanted to be rewarded for going through the actual situation. It's called J. Charles. But you have to understand that this shit is on purpose. Nothing here is an accident. There is nothing here within this space that is an accident. Most of these people know exactly what they're doing and exactly what they're trying to empower and exactly the results that they're trying to actually spread across the entire populace. That's what this mainstream Black Manosphere shit is about. It's about mainstreaming the fact that these men are dumb as shit and they refuse to move toward tangible solutions. So what's the deal there? How is this situation supposed to be any better if we keep multiplying failures? If we keep lionizing failure? And what they do is they hide behind the collective ignorance of the audience that they build. Again, it's a clientele problem. It is a clientele problem. Always been a clientele problem. You guys have got to understand that behavior toward a clientele problem isn't going to fix the clientele problem. You know how you fix the clientele problem? Different clientele, different individuals that don't have the upbringing of this, that have not been socialized into this, that is not defined by this. That's how that works. Remember, you have to respect the fact that the women of from 1970 to 2020, the grand majority of them created the exact family system that they wanted to create. It was an individual decision to decide who to give their body away to, for what reasons why they gave it away, the type of kids they have within that environment, the type of things that they taught their kid or didn't teach their kid, and subsequently the type of male leadership that they turn their kid on to in the future. That really is and was the decision of the woman to do that. But what I'm saying is, you as the man, you have to be specific and deliberate as they were. Trust me, the results speak for itself. The shot clock ain't lying. The scoreboard ain't lying. You need to learn to more about pointing toward the scoreboard rather than hoping that you get some type of bullshit representation from people that don't represent you or where you're going. We made anti-intellectualism a cornerstone of the actual environment. We did that. It was the men who actually did that. And the men who actually ruin their whole life over sexual access, who want to come socialize other people into doing the same dumb things that they did over sexual access. They're trying to repeat and multiply failure among the entire environment itself. All while claiming that they're trying to help you with something that they clearly can't help you with. And the moment you call them on that shit, you know what they say? Well, I can do whatever I want. Yes. It doesn't sound right coming out of a man's mouth about how undisciplined they want to be for a specific result that's not productive. It just doesn't sound right. So what I'm gonna do is drop the link in the chat. Gonna be here for another hour. Then I got some stuff to do today. So hold on a second. Because a lot of people don't know what women's support is. Like, if this is what you think women's support is listening to a woman talk down to people who look like her but not providing you any type of tangible substance, and you look at that shit as, oh man, I feel like I'm actually being supported. Like, dude, something wrong with you, man. I can't have you around, bruh. Can't have you around. Because if the standards of consistent betrayal is your actual idea of how things should work, then there is no way I'm gonna have you around here. Gee, what's going on, man? Sheed, you're muted.
All right, there you go. Yeah, what's going on,
Yes, sir.
MOT?
Oh, not much, man. Just it's like a lot of people don't know what the actual support of a woman is, and I'm like, dude, all this support that you want from a woman, that has nothing to do with you getting your shit together as a man. It just don't.
Yeah, because even when it comes down to the content, I mean, it speaks for itself. If the woman gonna support a man that's on his purpose and doing right, she just gonna do that regardless. You're not gonna sit
Yeah,
here and try to say, well, just because I gotta make this content for these women, then you caping for them. You're not standing on what you need to stand on, and that's just it. I mean, everybody has their little stand on certain things or whatever, but at the end of the day, if you trying to build something to, do what's right, standing on some type of real purpose, you're just gonna speak the truth, whether she rock with it or not. And the real men who rock with it, they're gonna stand for it. The one who's not, they're gonna move to the side. Like, that's the thing. Everybody's content isn't for everybody. About 30 years ago, I mean about 30 years from now, people who are now listening to this, or say 20, 10 to 20 years, they're gonna be listening to
wait,
this
wait,
and they're
wait,
gonna be like,
wait
oh,
on a second. Somebody need to mute up. Um, she's talking. Here's some feedback. Go ahead, she.
all right. So yeah, basically, so like I said, let's say 10 to 20 years from now, somebody's gonna be listening to this and they can be like, man, I should have been doing this when MOT and all these guys are talking about that. It's too late. Like we was talking earlier, you're gonna wait 30 years and then you want to get your life together, then get productive. You about 60 to 70 years old. It's a little
That's what
bit
I'm
too
saying.
late.
And the thing is, I have institutional support for women. I can't run my trucking business without women. I can't even get federal contracts without the women-owned business organization that I teamed up with. Why? They get all the fucking contracts. Everybody else is doing it, but people want things to work for them, and they don't want to play by the specific rules of the game. And I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I really
Because
don't.
real quick,
Well,
with Alonzo, I'm be real quick. With Alonzo, he talked about this one time with a guy. He lost his license for I think practicing accounting or something like that. But he had a good contract. He put it up on his wife's name since she was a woman. You know, she got the
Yeah,
contracts and ran it. And he ran it from the back door. And see,
yeah,
that's the thing. A lot of guys, you like I was
mhm.
telling a guy, I was like, man, my when I heard about this sex thing, everybody's, oh, these women this. I was like, well, if you got a good woman, hell, I'm married. I told my wife, I was like, hell, we gonna see how we can benefit from this. You go get a business, hell, she can have a trucking business. I run the business and she just the face of it. But people do it all the time. We the only ones that neglect this
Right.
because we really don't want no money. We just want to talk about it, but don't really be about
Mhm.
correct.
Right.
Rayo, go ahead, man.
Peace and
After
MOT, peace
Rayo,
of the
we're gonna go
panel.
to Al show, and then we're gonna go to the last person
Right.
who jumped
So
on.
I
Wait,
was
hold on,
interested in.
wait,
Okay.
hold on. We're going to Rayo. Go ahead.
Peace,
Rayo, go ahead,
MOT,
man.
peace of the panel, peace of the chat. Um, I've been doing a lot of research on the National Negro Business League, and it was a business organization set up by Booker T. Washington. And one of the most interesting aspects of doing this research is how well women, Black women specifically, were incorporated into the fabric of the National Negro Business League. And so, one of the more popular women who was a member of the National Negro Business League was Madam C.J. Walker. And I was reading this particular passage where when she was invited to come speak, she was waiting for a long time. Other people had been getting turns to speak, and she finally got tired of waiting and she hopped up, and to paraphrase, she wanted to be acknowledged, but what she really wanted to be acknowledged was the fact that as a Black woman, she was a positive contributor to her race. She didn't say women. Of course, what she was doing reflected positively on her being a Black woman and showing the capabilities of what Black women can do. But what she really wanted to express more so than anything was the fact that what she was doing made Black people look good as a collective. Okay. And there's another woman who was a very influential figure that came through there as well, named Maggie Lena Walker, who was a part of a maternal order of women who ultimately set up their own savings and loans company and actually set up their own uh, financing company. Okay. And so when you see this type of history, especially when these kinds of people were a part of a consortium that were trying to set up their own stock exchanges, because during those times, white people wouldn't let Black people list Black products on the stock market. You start to see something went completely and drastically wrong. Supporting Black men is not getting on platforms and throwing donations at niggas who talk shit. That's not supporting Black men. Supporting Black men is actually supporting Black men as they build the institutions that are supposed to best represent Black people. Your banks, your schools, your hospitals, your real estate development companies, your insurance companies, and literally supporting the institutions that help sustain you as a group. If you're not doing that, and if you're just going from channel to channel, basically looking for attention, that's not support. You're participating in the fuckery, and you can't complain about the fuckery that you participate in because you're constantly supporting it, even giving it views. We are not about the fuckery. We speak about things that help build institutions that sustain a people. Either you're with that program or you're just playing like you're still in high school. And unfortunately, too many Black people in these spaces act like it's still high school.
They desperately want to return back to that because the productivity piece didn't matter in high school. You could just show up and be the band in high school, and that's what they desperately want to go back to. Is that type of setup? All right, so Al, show what's going on, man?
Hi, how's everybody doing?
We're doing all right.
So I had a couple points. The main point was what was brought up about anti-intellectualism at one point. And
Yes.
what I would argue is anti-intellectualism is not so much a facet of any one community that I find in this country, but an overall American trait. So intellectual aspects, not only intellectuals, but critical thinking or rationality and logic, and, even education to an extent, are not, have never really been valued as much in this country. It never really been fixated, except in maybe individual enclaves and among individuals themselves, or certain, or maybe certain groups of people, certain like fast, certain individual, aspects, certain individual parts of the country. So there's this overall anti-intellectual thread that runs through the history of this country. And it impacts, I think, a lot of communities. And on YouTube, what you have is what I call a sort of strange anti-intellectualism, but a sort of faux intellectual response, which is to bash people who are educated, bash experts, bash all that, but act as if people are educated, the so-called YouTube scholar aspect, right? Like, oh, research, misuse of data, misuse, kind of making fallacious arguments seem as if they are not fallacies, but actually valid. It's valid syllogisms. You see a lot of this on YouTube. So it's a response to anti-intellectual. It's anti-intellectual response by pretending to be a faux intellectual yourself, but an uneducated intellectual. And that's part of the virus, I would say, that you see on YouTube. You see this a lot on various panels. Like they'll always try to go after, maybe not go after educated people, but they will always misuse the basis of debate as if debate itself matters. It doesn't. Somebody took debate in college. Debate at the end of the day is nothing more than a rhetorical contest. But people feel good if they get into quote unquote debates because it makes them feel like intellectuals, even though they aren't. It makes them feel intelligent, even though they aren't. So they make it a rule or make it an effort to go and engage people on YouTube or elsewhere and try to get them to get into these quote unquote debates, which is nothing more than a series of arguments. And after that, they can say, I went on this panel and I debated this guy and I won, as if that matters, as if that's going to get you somewhere, as if that, like, this is a job and you're going to make money from it, right? Like, you can make money on YouTube, but simply going on panels or going in spaces and debating people means absolutely nothing. It has no value in the real world. No one cares outside of YouTube that you went on some panel, for the most part, that you went on some panel and debated somebody, or that you went on some channel and argued with someone. It's a way of
Especially if you're
making
not putting it
people,
into real world.
yes, it's a way of making people, because I often call YouTube the Matrix, right? For, I think, pretty obvious reasons. And it makes people who are basically intellectually and rhetorically and linguistically inferior feel superior. Oh, I don't have a degree, but I basically was able to, push you 360 degrees out, and this guy's got a BA or a MA or a PhD. All right, this is what I did to him, and that's a facet of this anti-intellectualism. The second thing I wanted to note was, I guess, support of women, because I think that was brought up in the title.
Also,
And it's brought up
yeah.
So I'm just going to say this from my perspective, which is a bachelor, single guy, right? Obviously, as a bachelor, my perspective is I've never depended on support of women. It's just not been a factor to me. It's just in my life, I've been a writer for over 28 years, right? And somebody who was a freelance writer, I was freelance writer for 22 years. You have to learn to rely on yourself. You have to, in that line of work, you have to learn to rely on yourself and do it yourself. And once you are able to do that, you're not looking for any kind of quote unquote support, because you are the support. So I used to tell people, I have my own back, right? And I understand, what some individuals are saying about, getting together with wives or getting together with, I don't know about girlfriends, but wives, and kind of getting together in terms of businesses or organizations or institutions and stuff like that. And yeah, I guess that has value, and I guess that has a certain, attraction to it. But from my perspective, if you're going to talk about men getting their act together, to me, it's simple. Again, I'm speaking from my perspective. I just did the basic things I think anybody would do, right? I got out of high school. I went to college, got my bachelor's degree, and I wound up on I initially worked in radio, was playing oldies rock music, because I had done radio in college. been
Hey
doing
man, 30
news.
seconds, man. We gotta
Okay.
go to the gotta
And
go to the
so
next
I
one.
did all the things that I had to. So I got myself together. And I think at the end of the day, that's what men need to do in general. You have to get yourself together. Stop looking for external um,
Validation,
uh,
that's what it is. External validation.
validation and acceptance from other people, especially women. And validate yourself and accept yourself and get yourself in order. If you do all the right things, it's easy. Thanks for the time.
All right, all right, cool. Spawn program, go ahead, man.
Yo, what's going on? You can hear me?
Yeah, all the way. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's kind of like just been what's been going on in this space for like the past month or so. It's kind of alarming when it comes to actually the men because that's the thing that's like troubling me the most. Just like how the men been acting, like having to have the women actually talk for them, trying to actually
That's
politically
what I'm
do
saying,
things
man. That
for
shit seems
them.
weak as
And
fuck to me.
it's
Oh
very
god.
bizarre, man. Because when I was listening to BGS, he was talking about he want Pearly Thing to fight politically for him, but it's kind of like she don't even want reparations for you. So it's kind of like, why would this 26-year-old that didn't even come for that fight on your behalf when she don't even live in this country? Like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like like you said, when it comes to arrested development, like a lot of these men they haven't grown up at all. And for like the younger people, it's kind of like 'cause I go to those type of spaces, like you don't have to tell them this shit. It's pretty simple, but everybody
Facts.
here they're trying to profit off this shit.
Yeah, but it's like like the support for women that they think they're getting is not real support. Like whatever you're getting out of a woman 100% agreeing with you and still providing you nothing isn't real support. But 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 the whole thing is to still have this pimp hoe relationship
Yeah, it isn't
to
at all,
where
man.
yeah, it's just that I'm not gonna do shit. I'm just gonna be here for 10,000 years, and then I'm just gonna assign somebody else the position of doing all the shit that is my responsibility. Because I can guarantee you, 6 months ago, Pearly Things wasn't supposed to be the person bringing it home for black men. Now she is. How? How? How this happened?
I don't know, man. I don't know. And the thing is now it's like now that all the people, all these new people are coming to this space, people like us gotta hold them like they people expecting us to hold them accountable because when you say manosphere, it's kind of like, oh, now it's a general term, but it's like, nah, man, y'all go to certain people that's on this type of fuck shit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not just everybody over here. Like it's some respectable people here. You feel me?
And what they want to do is they just want to use the manosphere as a pejorative, so that way they can dismiss the productive and unproductive men alike. So since the numbers are with the fuckery and bullshit, so the manosphere is on fuckery and bullshit. Like, no, we have a clientele problem here. It's kind of like a cancer treatment ward. There's 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 very few oncologists, but there's a lot of people who's getting help from the oncologists. So you can't define the actual space from the people who's damaged. You can only define the space from the people who's trying to help.
Right.
And for some
Well,
reason, people turn around and they try to, well, well, the numbers are with this, so that's what you believe. I'm like, well, you want it to actually be focused on that, so that way you can have something to gain out of that. But that's not what we're about, and that's not what we're for.
well, see, I'm just gonna keep it real. See, people like myself and MOT, we've been around here a long time, and um, we remember conversations where certain productive men were viewed as being dishwashers, which was used as a pejorative term to label men who said that they wasn't going to clean up messes in Black America. Those men were viewed as basically on some sellout type stuff, and these dudes were looking. They were in terms of a form of self-aggrandizement, were like they were the true leaders of the space, and some were even affiliated with the likes of dudes who literally said like they would force black men to take care of single moms and stuff like that. And if the men didn't comply, they would end them. And so, and I mean figuratively, I mean literally. So, but the reason why y'all don't know this is because many of those dudes have hid those videos from y'all. Those videos aren't up anymore. And those same dudes who were pushing stuff like that, now all of a sudden they're SYSBM. Now they're passport bros and things like that. When that stuff was really coming to the fore, they were against that stuff. And so what you have is a bunch of disingenuous dudes that really want to try to hide the fact that they were on that bullshit years ago. We have been the most consistent because we have been calling them to task. Now, what is that task? That task is building the institutions. This is what Mike V has been talking about. Mike V and MOT specifically have been talking about from a political standpoint, building those institutions. But we're all about building institutions that best represent us from a business standpoint and and politically, because your political aspirations need to be aligned with your business interests. It's hard to have political interest when you don't take business seriously, and that's what you're dealing with in this space. Males, I don't call them men, males who don't take life seriously, they don't take business seriously. And every time we put this stuff in their faces, it's always a backlash because it's a reminder that these dudes are not taking things seriously. I said this in BGS's chat the other day when all this pearly stuff really started hitting. And I
He went out. Did anybody else hear him go out?
hold on, yeah, I went out for a second. The reason why, the reason why I said there is a Chinatown, for example, is because you have the financial interests of those Chinese people working in concert with each other so that Chinatown from a finance there is a Chinatown because there is an identity that goes with that is undergirded from a financial perspective. I said, and when I said that in the chat, his response was, right, I don't want to hear that shit. So that lets you know that you're dealing with somebody who has no intention on building anything sustainable for Black America in terms of institutions. YouTube is not a freaking institution, okay? Not for you individually. You have to be of the men who are about building the institutions. Otherwise, you're not going to have representation in the system. That's how it works. You have to have the institutions that represent you. And the problem is a lot of these dudes are blocking the men who keep trying to bring that consciousness to the fore. They are the main obstacles to blocking that type of talk being the main kind of talk in these types of spaces, which it should be.
Yeah, because that's even a situation like with Alonzo. When everybody we up here talking about life insurance and getting insurance just in general, things in the future, like a lot of guys who say they don't want to deal with women, you need to have some type of insurance when you get elderly that it pays for your retirement, for you to somewhere to stay, get a nurse and stuff like that. Guys are not think about that. They just rah now. Those cash apps are flowing right now, but when you get older, are you still gonna have that type of money? You're gonna wish you took that money instead of throwing it out at the wind and giving it to something more productive. That's the thing. I talk about life insurance on my channel. I do a lot of this talk about buying houses, buying land, getting yourself together. People don't want to hear that. But when it comes down to it, you're going to get old and eventually it's going to pick up one day, it's going to think about it. Like I said, the basic information that I know, I'm just relaying it on my channel. Like so many people, and I get more women wanting to learn this stuff and say, I didn't know. You know how many women have reached out to me? It's like, well, what about this program? What do you know about this? I want to get insurance. I say, go to Alonzo. Somebody wants to buy a house. I say, well, I have a guy that he's a real estate agent. If you're here in Georgia, he'll work with you. I'm like, there's other guys on YouTube and stuff, but I can connect you. You know how many guys reached out to me? I think it was probably 3 or 4 guys asked me about life insurance, and I told them talk to Alonzo. Hell, me and you, Rael, remember when we was on the panel and what's this Marty? We the one talked to Marty about talking to Alonzo. Got
Sure did.
he got Marty a sweet deal. I
Yep.
don't want to talk about Marty business. You go to his channel and tell you, but Marty basically when he did his house deal, Alonzo saved him a lot of money, even with his
Hmm.
life insurance. This guy's about to retire just off the life insurance that he set up with Alonzo. But
Yep.
guys don't want to hear this stuff until when?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's too high a level of a conversation for them. So what it
Hmm.
is that they wanted to kind of corral the conversation around a specific cyclical problem that is never meant to be solved. They did not want to go around and go out and solve problem, which is actual the masculine responsibility, is to
Right.
change the actual environment itself. Is to point out the problem. And then they get mad when women are here. I'm like, well, women are doing the fucking job that you motherfuckers are supposed to be doing. Pointing out the problems, pointing out the bullshit.
Well,
And they're
well,
like, oh, why are they here? It's like, well, they're doing the same shit that y'all should be doing. But y'all attracted to the counter message while you complaining about them for even being here. So it's like, I don't know. It's crazy.
well, MLT, let's take it a step further because as you were talking, something crystallized. When, okay, if you look at content as a form of game, it makes sense to keep females around because you get to run interference in terms of productive men. So now, see, if you take away women from spaces like this, who is going to typically stand out the most? The people who are going to stand out the most are going to be the productive men. And see, when you take away the female element, now you're talking hierarchy. Because see, real men don't argue against a hierarchy because we understand like it's necessary because our nature is to bring the structure and order to things. Okay, you can't be against hierarchy because hierarchy goes into the building of buildings and you want men to build that building precisely so it doesn't cave in on your ass. So we're going to make sure the structure of things are intact. The problem is that when you have enough men who are productive, it gives a lot of males who are not productive room to bullshit. And that's what you see. The reason why you have dudes who can sit on YouTube talking about bullshit all the time, because there's enough men in this system who are productive enough to make sure that their basic needs are taken care of. Now, if you take this shit 1,000 years ago, there would be none of this shit because you would have to put in on some shit if you wanted to get something out of that community that you were part of. And people had no problem. I was reading something about some African traditions, and they were talking about how you had to do something very egregious to get kicked out of your tribe. And so if you came across another tribe, they knew that if you got kicked out of your own tribe, you had to do something so bad they wouldn't even let you in their tribe. And so in this type of environment, you get to just belong because you exist. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to contribute anything. You could just be here. And this is what this space is. This space has become a participation trophy space. I'm something because I'm here instead of actually doing something that signifies you're actually making a mark in a positive way as men.
Correct. Let me read this super chat. $5 from Quizzy Prince. These unproductive people are like a swarm of bees. Once the nest is knocked down on one platform, they swarm flies to another unproductive platform. Yes. So what it is, this is a measure of masking their lack of progress by going to the next person who's restarting the conversation. And that's kind of what it is. Like if you would pull up my content like 4, even 5 years ago, yeah, those people were talking a good game then. Now look at the bullshit that they on now. So what changed, right? Because you jump on a panel to specifically talk about things of of actual progress. Now it's about Well, my voice is based on stagnation, so we're gonna do the stagnation thing. So how you gonna have a level of declining failure that's gonna come out through the bottom point of infinity, that's gonna go through the positive point of infinity, and then we're gonna have some level of success. So it just really just doesn't make any sense for these people to be doing that type of stuff. What's going on, Ben?
Yeah.
Eddie? Man, I ain't see you
Yeah.
come off yet.
So
Well,
All right,
go
go
no,
ahead.
ahead.
you can go ahead. You can go ahead.
Well, what seems to have happened with YouTube, maybe this is the internet in general and social media, is that people who are, there have always been individuals who, because of class, socioeconomic class structure, and because of the way education is set up, higher education, and because of other factors, lack of access to skilled trades or other kinds of professions and careers, there will always be not simply poor people and working class people, but there will always be people who are going to be on the bottom rungs, as the cliche goes, low man on the totem pole, right? So let's look at that phrase, low man on the totem pole. Here's the big difference between 2023 and say 1923 or 1823. The low man on the totem pole would be ignored, would not be thought about, because the low man on the totem pole had no access to broadcast media, didn't have any access to anything else.
Yeah. So eh, and it's not like we didn't go through this before, right? So okay,
Right,
so let's say
precisely.
after the
So go ahead.
wait hold on a second. So all right, so let's say after the Civil War, we got the right to participate in society. We were the ones who have skills. We majority live like most immigrants live today here. It wasn't that people were so much more smarter than anyone else. It's just that we came out of a situation where we had the skills and no one else had them, right? So productivity still was something that ran Reconstruction. It wasn't just government handouts. It was the fact that we had a safe, equal society that was actually being supported and built until it was actually destroyed. And then again, more people decided to become quote unquote nativists and acting like these things wasn't happening, rather than still trying to produce and still build on their own. Like to me, the actual existence of women that you shouldn't be dealing with doesn't really bother me all that much. But what it does bother me is that people in the same environment see things that they shouldn't be bothered with and bother themselves with it anyway. So I just see it as an infinite supply of checks and balances that is actually meeting itself
Okay,
out on a daily basis.
right. Well, so getting back to what I noted about the low man on the totem pole, right? So what YouTube has done, and again, what I guess social media to an extent has done, like Facebook, Twitter, whatever, Instagram, whatever, what it has allowed is for the forgotten man, since we're looking at the male context here, the forgotten man, the losers, the failures, the people always struggling, what it allowed them to do was have a platform for which they could not only articulate their frustrations, their struggles, to some their pain, and their inability and their lack of mobility in the society. But it also allowed them the opportunity to be seen and to be validated, to be accepted by others like them. And that's very important, because prior to that, there really weren't the platforms for it, unless these individuals joined working man's associations in the 19th century, or maybe certain kinds of like working class clubs or something like that. There was no place for the forgotten man, and the forgotten working man, and the
Not at
unsuccessful
all.
man in American society and most other societies. Now with
I mean, there was a
YouTube
place
and
for
other,
you. There was a place for you. It was called AM radio that nobody
Right.
really listened to,
Right.
and that's what it was for.
Man, you ain't
well, maybe if
serious.
you called in, possibly, but now there is a place for them. It's YouTube, where it's not simply they can express themselves, they can now be put on a pedestal because they're being put on a pedestal by other people like them. They're being validated and accepted and promoted and praised by other people like them, and maybe some other people that are interested in them. So this is a kind of historic role reversal. So when you hear
Yes, it
about
is.
things like, for example, incels, incels are nothing new. Like I didn't know what the name was, but they're nothing new. These men have always existed. And they're just a phenomena that have been given a new name and now have platforms from which they can spew, talk about their frustration and their anger and their aspects. And they're now being heard. And here is what the larger society and other people don't understand. That what they don't get is they don't want these people to be heard. And that in and of itself is kind of not going to happen. So they don't like the fact that these people are being heard. And I can kind of understand that. But at the same time, I think these people have every right to be heard, have every right to come out there and talk about their issues, even if you don't agree with their issues, even if you think whatever they're about is irrelevant to you. They have every right to do that. I mean, in a way, it's like that movie from the 80s, Revenge of the Nerds, even though these aren't nerds per se. It's like that movie, Revenge of the Nerds, right? You know, you have the alpha betas and you have the trilambs, right? The trilambs are the nerds, the alpha betas are the athletes, the jocks, and so forth. And that's basically how societies, like American society, have treated a lot of men on the bottom. And these kind of guys, whether they're incels, whether they're just poor guys, working class, guys that aren't unsuccessful, they treated them like they treated the nerds in Revenge of the Nerds, right? And at the end of that movie, they go and they say, hey, we've been treated this badly all our lives. We're not going to take it anymore, right? That's precisely what these individuals are doing. They're saying, we're not going to take it anymore. And that's why they had the platform. And people don't like it, just like the jocks, the alpha betas, didn't like it in Revenge of the Nerds. They didn't like it. I mean, there was one character that said,
hold on. Okay. None of us up here are saying men don't have the right to express themselves, but this is different. Okay, so like for example, when I was in 6th and 7th grade, I used to have to when we used to go to the basketball courts, it was a lot of grown men that used to play ball at the court. And these grown men didn't take it easy on you because you was in the 6th and 7th grade. Either you got good or you stayed on the sideline. What did we do? We didn't complain. The fact that we were playing with 25, 30, 35, 40-year-old men, sometimes even older, that helped us be better. We couldn't go cry and say, man, they playing too hard. We couldn't do that. We had to step up to their game. We had to step up to their level. We couldn't bitch about it. So if we couldn't bitch about it, man, in the 6th and 7th grade, you can't get to your adult stages and bitch about it too. Competition is what it is. Like you have to get in the game. And unfortunately, too many of these dudes do not want to get in the game. They want to bitch about the rules. Do y'all think it's easy for Black men to engage in business in the United States? Y'all think it's easy? It's 10 times harder for us because we operating in a group that's in a lot of ways anti-business. That's why you're less likely to get capital support from especially family members. A lot of other people in other groups can get financial support from family. It's a lot harder for us. We don't complain about the environment though. We still engage in the battle because the battle has to be waged no matter what. So when we're looking at these particular guys, especially if I'm looking at white men who haven't had nothing but advantages in this country, I don't want to hear no manosphere shit from white dude. I don't want to hear that shit. I do not want to hear that coming out their mouths because it's bogus. Because y'all have had every advantage that you could possibly have. Maybe you're just not good enough. Maybe that's just what it is, and you need to accept the fact that you're just not good enough. And having a platform on YouTube is not going to change that. It's giving you a voice, but it's still not changing your condition because you're just not good enough.
Yeah.
Now,
All right, let's go to the go.
okay.
Let's go to the go. Let's go to the go. 11. What's going on, the go?
Yeah,
What you
yeah,
got?
man. What's going on? I kind of have to I kind of have to piggyback on Ryle's point. I mean, he's kind of dead on that. We do have to kick it a lot harder. We do have to push it a lot more. I'm not trying to hear these cats coming up in here like I'm really not trying to hear that. But actually, when we start to get slightly to the bigger piece, when we start talking about can the manosphere survive without the support of black women, of course we can. But remember, since it's black men and we're doing that, these women have come over here to get involved in the manosphere because they want to be a part of that conversation. And brothers, when we had the opportunity to really keep things the way we had it, they were, well, let's just say this, even from Manosphere 1.0, and let's really talk about, let's talk about cats like um, Wacky World of O, who was here very early on, and some of these other brothers who were here very, very early on. There was definitely, women coming into that manosphere. Brothers were talking about men's issues and so forth, and these black women were in there diving in. So they're definitely going to come diving in. But as we are being productive and keeping a very productive aspect to this side of the manosphere, can we be successful kind of without the support of them? Yes, but they're going to come over regardless. They are going to come over. The name of the game, are they going to be the centerpiece of this? No. But are they going to come over here to the manosphere? Yes, they are. They definitely going to come here. I just wanted to address that. There was nothing really keeping them from really coming over. The name of the game is if you
No,
guys want to come in here
no.
and make this a co-ed, manosphere co-ed, man. I heard some people making those kind of statements. Absolute insanity. But anyway, go ahead, MOT. Go ahead. What are you gonna say? Go ahead.
I mean, but you have to realize that you can have this place chock 99% with fucking women. That still has no bearing on the action that you're going to take once you have all the information at hand.
That's
It
correct.
doesn't matter how many women that's here.
That's
It
correct.
doesn't. I think that women here has really exposed a lot of dudes, but then like a lot of dudes kind of fell back. They don't want to be associated with where the brand is going. I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, um, the where the brand is going, the compromisers are actually the people who's pushing this shit. The compromisers are the people who's going over to other platforms, talking about where this shit is going. And it's like the women who are even talking to these dudes are a bigger problem and a non-supporter of the productive men in the actual space that they're a part of. So
Well,
I
we
don't even worry about any of those things.
well, sure, and you have to admit, a lot of these brothers wanted the attention from these women. A lot
They
of these guys
do.
wanted to get online and talk to these women. They wanted to. A lot people talk about incels and all that. You got that. You got. I don't go with all these labels and all the incel. But if we want to talk about that, there were guys in here that definitely wanted wanted conversation and wanted attention from them as well. And some of these women came in here and some of them were interested in really what some of the issues were, but some came in here to kind of get hook up with brothers and stuff like that. And brothers want to hook up with them. That's a part of what was going on. I started
Well,
seeing that. I started seeing a lot of thirst going on here as well. So
right.
we were seeing that. But I'm saying the brothers who are productive, who are here to have productive conversations to really talk about men's issues, if you will, we're going to be able to do that regardless if these women try to come in here or not, and they're not going to be the prime focus of what this conversation is going to be about.
So I got a question,
So,
right? So,
yeah.
all right. So I don't. My thing is, I want to see what y'all on. So I don't have a problem with women being here. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say I'm talking. I got a stream up, right? Um, as long as she's saying on topic and she not really on no fuck shit, I mean, I don't have a problem with talking with anybody, but I'm not going to be up here trying to correct you on the stream when you can just go in real life and just do whatever you want to do. Like, if I'm gonna talk to a woman online, it's gonna be somebody that actually is conservative or actually on some tangible shit.
Well,
Yeah, and like the numbers are so low for men, you have to make room for the people who are on some tangible shit. Period, because that's not what the culture supports right now. So
right.
to me, I'd rather know that these people are compromised rather than to have an all boys club and not know shit.
Yeah, yeah,
I'd rather
yeah.
have them. I'd rather know. I'd rather know.
Well, the thing is, me and Complex, we addressed this in a stream that we did on masculinity, that this space really still hasn't really wanted to address. And the reason why I wanted us to do this stream was because I wanted to be clear in what masculinity is and how it's developed. Masculinity has always been developed away from women. When you talk about the rites of passages throughout the cultures of the world, from Africa to Australia, um, South America, rites of passages for boys specifically were enacted to separate boys from their mother, because the men of ancient times recognized that if a boy spent too much an inordinate amount of time around their mothers, they could not develop their masculine frame. So when I see females talking about they support the manosphere, so I want to hear those types of women saying, "Hey, I support men taking control over boys so they can develop their masculine frame." That's the kind of support I want to see, because there's no way in hell we've got 60 years plus of this where we have seen women being in control of children, something that has never been a part of our culture. This is something that white people first enacted in Europe in terms of the Tender Years Doctrine, came over to the United States in terms of jurisprudence, where women get first dibs over children. Before that, the children used to be the domain of men, used to be up under men. So if a woman and man separated, those children went with the father. And so when you start talking about the development of masculinity specifically, and let's be clear, when you talk about those spaces of men where they conduct those rites of initiation, those spaces are considered sacred spaces as well, because your masculinity is a divine essence. It is divinity itself. Your masculinity is not just about, oh, you just born a male. No, it's in terms of your psyche, the way that you approach life. You approach life in such a serious manner that you just will not compromise what your essence is supposed to be. And so when you have men that are constantly compromising masculinity by not being the type of men that project manhood, productivity, you're not serious. I don't give a damn how many streams you do ranting and raving, because that's what a lot of females will do. Men, we get shit done. And if you do not approach life from that serious perspective, you are not a man. You're a male, you're a boy, but you're not a man. That's something very significant. That's the reason why they created these rites of passage in the first place. They felt it was serious enough for them to actually create an initiation process to bring you into it. So you would understand, like in ancient times, or not even ancient times, in relatively recent history, if you had a native tribe, you would go and hunt a bear. And then once y'all killed the bear, you could be 7 or 8 years old. Now once you see the men around you capture and kill a bear, you can never go back to your mother the same kind of boy, because now you've seen something different. They smear the blood on your face. A great movie that really actually depicts this problem, I was just talking to Complex earlier about this, is this movie about Vikings. It's called The Northman. And what you see in the movie, early in the movie, is that he's going through an initiation process with his father and the shaman. And they're going through this whole ritual process to initiate him into his masculinity. And so he spends the whole movie thinking that he has to uh, find his mother. And at the end, he realizes he was completely wrong in what he was doing. He didn't know it, he was, but he still was. And so this is what a lot of this stuff really is coming about. It's a lot of men who do not want to separate from their mother and get to work. That's what this is all about. Other than that, you're just wasting time.
Well, the bottom line, Raul, you're talking about deeds. You know, it's very interesting. You know, I look at I'm sure everybody is familiar, and I'll say this so everybody knows, so we don't have to go into any other cryptic cultures, but the Maasai. What's one of the famous things about Maasai young men as they come into manhood? You got to hunt that lion. You got to go out there and hunt that. You got to go out there and hunt that lion. And that lion's a motherfucker, right? So that lion, if you miss that lion, because that lion's afraid of you, when he sees some brothers coming up on him, that lion knows what time it is. And that lion's like, listen, either I'm gonna have to either get out of here, or if I don't, and if these guys miss, I got to take them out, because that's the only way I'm getting out of here. That's it. So they send these, and that's a rites of passage that could kill you. So, you know, just like in my fraternity, we have a part of it where it says manly deeds, scholarship, love for all mankind. Okay, but that's part of the theme. But manly deeds, you are defined in your masculinity by your actions, by your deeds, by what you do. It's not what you don't do; it's by what you do. So that's what this thing is about. So you have to define yourself through deeds. That's a big part of what we've got going on here, and that's what we really try to push. I say certainly here, or you know, MOT talks about it ad infinitum, and he can never talk about it enough. He can never talk about it enough. We talk about it in the Brain Trust and other places where you have to consistently, you know, build yourself and, you know, do things that are going to increase, you know, your ability to be much more effective and operate out here in this world. That's tough. You know, that's a discipline. There is a discipline to that. So we have to really, you know, consistently keep our minds on that. That's why we say when women come in here or do whatever, a lot of women come in here, they start getting a little bit excited by some of the brothers who are talking about really moving forward and doing things that are positive for us to build ourselves, because that's what this thing is about, and that's what women are going to be attracted to. So you're not going to stop that from coming around. But the key thing for us is to really talk about what's going to consistently advance our goals and our issues, and you know, and and really, you know, what are our interests? You have to really look at that big time, and that's something that we can talk about here in places like this. Here we can really talk about that and get people's minds right with respect to that. I don't think we want to waste time chasing behind women. This white woman, you know, running around and all this stuff going on, and guys getting all caught up into that. And
This is their fault. This is their fault.
you know, I mean, to me, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that this is where we're at. This is not a mat. It's unbelievable, but this is where we are, and like I said, there are two men. I'm sorry, and I'm going to say this: there are two manospheres. There's one on one side, and there's another one, and unfortunately, there is a split. And what side are you on? I guess that's how I have to look at it. That's really how I have to really look at this. And
well, to kind of finish, you know, what I was noting before, right? So you mentioned that there are two sides, right? The way that most societies, I would argue all, but most societies are built, and let's just deal with men here. The way that most societies are built, whether it's on a limited, you know, a smaller basis or larger basis, is, like I mentioned before, low man on the totem pole, right? There are some winners and a whole lot of losers. At the very least, there are some people who will be successful and a number of people that will survive, maybe, but also others that will survive and be unsuccessful, or perhaps not survive. It's often the way that human societies, unfortunately, are structured. And so when it comes to men, in the end, this has always been the case. There are going to be men who are going to be able to achieve and attain a degree of success in whatever field or whatever industry or whatever aspect they're involved in. And most men will survive. And other men will not thrive. They'll just barely get by or eke by or whatever. And as I mentioned before, when I used the point of the low man on the totem pole, what I think has changed with the internet and social media, and in particular YouTube, is that the forgotten men, the man who won't be successful, the unsuccessful man, what they have a platform and they have an outlet to be able to not only express themselves, but also to be seen, heard, and to be validated by others. Now, why is this important in regards to how people see individuals? And what's happened is now people have to contend with the men that they could dismiss, that they could kind of throw in the rubbish bin, that they could just, ignore as part of the society. It's like, okay, they're on the bottom and they have to stay on the bottom. They're still on the bottom. And here's where I think the point needs to be. The point is what I want to make. It's not a matter of it's not a matter so much of competition, right? You have to understand the game is rigged. And there are always going to be people that are on the bottom, the people who are going to be unsuccessful. And what I see with this phenomena of the low man on the totem pole and all of these guys that are now on YouTube and now kind of expressing themselves, whether they're incels or whatever they're called, what they understand is they will not be successful. They will not be productive, if you want to call it that. They are not going to be able to do that. So it's not a matter of wanting to succeed or wanting to compete or wanting to be a part of that. It's an understanding on their part of what their place is, what their status is, what they're about. Like any society, there's only so many slots for successful people. There are only so many slots for winners. There are only so many slots for people who will achieve and attain. And what you have to understand from what I've seen of this phenomenon, what little I've seen, is these people understand that. They get it. That's why they're on YouTube. That's why they're on platforms. That's why they're doing what they're doing. They get that. And that's their orientation and their aspect. So in a sense, at least the ones that acknowledge that to a great extent, they understand there's probably not going to be any change in their condition, no matter what they do. They understand the game is rigged against them. They understand that the society looks down on them, or the society doesn't see them as valuable or have any valuable. They get that. And so they may fight, some of them may fight against it, but they acknowledge it and they deal with the reality. And how they deal with that reality is being on their platforms and being on their channels and speaking out for them. So at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what manhood ritual, what structure they have, all of that. It's irrelevant. The way societies are, and this society is no different. Some winners, a whole lot of losers.
Can I ask you a question?
Who are the losers are the ones that are speaking out to a certain extent. Some of these losers are speaking out, and that's changed. And that's where people are uncomfortable because they don't want to hear the losers. They don't want to hear the successful people. They don't want to deal with it.
Can I ask you a question? Yeah. Is America a developed nation or an undeveloped nation?
Well, it's a first world nation.
It's a first world nation, so that means it's developed. Okay.
Right.
What was the position of Black men post slavery? We were the lowest on the totem pole, weren't we?
African American men, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Within a 20-year period, starting in 1881, with the formation of Tuskegee, Booker T. Washington created Tuskegee. He had the Tuskegee Farmers Conference, and he established in 1892, and then in 1900, he established the National Negro Business League. which operated in 34 states. From this particular platform, there were a whole type of there were different types of associations that came out of the National Negro Business League. You had banking associations, you had insurance associations, okay? To the point that within a 20-year period post-slavery, even without the help of Reconstruction, even because the federal troops were removed from the South, which was the actual physical protection of Black people in the South post Civil War, Black people were doing better than poor whites. Okay, and so when you talk about the system is rigged, there was no point. There was never a point in time that was more rigged against Black people, especially Black men, than that particular time. And in spite of that, we have the National Negro Business League that's still in existence. We have Tuskegee that's still in existence. So you're talking about two institutions that were formulated in some of the worst times for Black people, because we had to formulate our own structures. From 1886 to 1934, we created 134 Black owned banks in the United States. And now it's 2023, and we're talking about the system is rigged. No, you have never had more of a proliferation of information, which is exactly what you need in an information based economy. It's different now. So now you have to use more of your brain. And even you acknowledge that the anti-intellectualism, the anti-information aspect of America in general. So what does that mean? That means more people's lack of success in America at this particular time, it's not because of lack, it's because of will. Because back then, Black people lacked back then, but they had more will back then. Now it's people have a lack mentality, so they don't want to have to do the things instead of going to the club every weekend, because we already know that kind of history in terms of Black people, instead of sitting their asses down and reading material that helps increase their knowledge of how this system works. Because once you understand how capital works, once you understand the business environment, you're much more prepared to answer the challenges that you face, because our challenges was way much more deeper then than it is now. We don't have to worry about the Klan anymore. We have to worry about apathetic Black people who just want to give up because it's not handed to them on a silver platter, which it never was handed to us on a silver platter.
Well,
All right, let me read it. Wait. No, let me read this
Well,
499 super chat from Value Unit Amara. 1/10% of Black men cuts the paychecks for the other Black men. This is a stable statistic to measure if we are changing the environment. I do agree. And it's like this is why you need more productive people. Like you don't need more people with manosphere talking points. Like that doesn't produce anything. Like if your actual end goal is to be with this woman anyway, manosphere talking points isn't going to save you from anything. If this is your actual end goal, if this is where you actually want to be. So all right, let's go back to the goal. Then we're going to go to BMT. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah,
Nicole.
it's true. Like manosphere talking points are useless. A lot of them they're just useless. A lot of it is a grift. We know that, but
Facts.
one thing we'll have to say where Blacks a lot of Blacks when we started doing better, so forth. We were kind of in the farming community a lot more.
Hmm.
I knew it very much because my grandmother, great grandmother, and all of them were very deeply involved with this in the South. But then many of us came to the North, and if we got we migrated out of the South a lot because of terrorism, but also another part because we wanted to move into the factories and so forth. And there was a whole big flux. There was a change in the migration of Black people in this country that a lot of us don't really talk about as
Speak
much
on it.
as we need to really. And I'm not going to get so deep into that right now, but I will just say that did play a role. And then as we got into the cities, and then some other institutional factors did come into play. We can talk about from redlining and all other types of factors that came in. We got involved in education. Got a lot of big education got definitely sidetracked because when Black men came out of and it was primarily the church. It was primarily the church system. Okay, and the blue back speller that educated most black people that came out of slavery. And here you had black people coming out with damn near, 90, close to 100% illiterate, and went to almost a full literacy. We didn't have it. 25, 30 years later was literally unheard of almost in any peoples on the planet. We had never seen anything like that before. So we had seen blacks go from illiteracy to becoming very literate in a generation, which we almost never saw anywhere on earth, almost anywhere at any point in time. So we did have tremendous advantages, but they were things that did adversely affect us. And they're things that we have to sit down and look at historically and deal with. We are dealing with some of these issues now. When I'm not going to sit down here and look at us and say that we're all effed up. I do know the school zone is very interesting. I got a call from a good friend of mine the other day. They're trying to hire some recruiters and so forth to come into the home school zone to hire more people in the tech sector and all this. I'm like, what? Oh man. So there's a lot of growing still going on in the city. There are a lot of good things that are happening that we do see. We just got to really keep our foot on the gas. And I think that's a big part of the issue that I see, where the manosphere has just moved away from. They got away from that aspect of putting your foot on the gas, being focused, and really pushing us to do better as men. And we want to talk. You can't do better as a man if you're not going to do better as a boy. You have to have all that working together. And that's something that I think we are. Certain parts of this manosphere are talking about that, but other parts have kind of segued away and gotten caught up into a lot of this madness. That's why I'm of the mindset we shouldn't be too concerned about what a lot of these other people who are way out there on the other end talking crazy about, because they're going to self-destruct at some point in time. Those who are being productive, and we're talking about doing productive things and showing people some very good ways to become productive and stay productive, that's where this game really is at. The productivity piece and and really the self-development piece. These are the biggest pieces that really we can really talk about here in the manosphere. These are the biggest issues here that I believe that are key in the manosphere now. These other guys talking some of this craziness and this obscene coonery going on and so forth. Leave them where they are. Leave them where they are. They're not going to survive long term. That is not a winning plan. It's not a winning plan. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm just gonna leave it there. That's if what I'm saying makes sense to you guys. I'll leave it at that.
It makes sense to me. Shout out to Charles Key Singer, $5 super chat. Pookie not teaching his son calculus or accounting. I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, but this is why I say these people are synthetic street dudes, because people who went through that actual process didn't want other people involved with it, mainly work inside the community, don't want to be known for the past things they actually do. They actually do want their sons to be better, the best. But these people want something, yes. But you have something different. You have nihilistic, apathetic people who just want to see the world burn because they cannot participate in the productivity piece. And that's the majority of the problem there. Go ahead, BMT.
What's going on? Shout out to MOT. Shout out to Nagone.
What's up, man?
We had amazing panels years ago on lobbying, building, and also starting up of businesses. I remember that. We used to all sit down and have those conversations, and that was told to us, those are not wanted. We need to figure out how to check the women. And I was like, wait a second, I could have sworn we're trying to lobby. Back then, when we had actual people of elected seats, lawyers, doctors, we were there. We sat there and had think, okay, here's what we can do. We can get these guys hired, but what can they do for the city? Well, the women are going to get the jobs. Wait, why are you talking about that? That's not what we talk about in this office right now. We're talking about right now how to get this grant filled out. He wants to know about this. He doesn't want to know about your female bedroom problems. Well, they they get in the grant. Like, listen, dude, if you're not ready for the conversation, step back. What about the rainbow people? Listen, bro. Like, if you're not ready for it, time and time again, we keep trying to tell people everybody's not built to step to the podium for the mic. And this is why, and I want you to understand, the women didn't sneak into this space. They didn't covertly were hiding in the shadows. They were welcomed, emailed, and brought here.
Yes. On purpose.
And they were put on purpose.
Facts.
Let's put that. Let's think that us three can say that they were brought here on purpose. The same ones you're told to hate were the ones that were sat on significant podium platforms and put in position of power, told after men panels to go over there and support them, fund them, and build them up. So you were told and brought into the grifting space. The same space where they talk about we wanted accountability, but then they would jump over certain laws that did damage to that of your own constitutional rights. I'm a conservative. I'm for this. Why are they this? And I'm like, whoa, wait, what are we doing? This is anarchy. So now we're here, where the some bastards now their children are now running amok, running barefoot and breaking glass in that other room. And oh man, they must know they didn't sneak in here. They were welcomed here. They were told to come here. Now the men are like, what can we do? They told you what they wanted to do. This is for women first, the woman first movement. This was feminism at its best here. And so now the unaccountable people who were not trying to talk about how to properly lobby. We're talking about cutting out certain voting rights from other people. Oh yeah, that happened. That is unconstitutional. Or having certain type of androgynous behavior of pumping and having bastard babies, but then, well, hold up, well, that's my choice. Wait. You're now sounding like the same women that you hate on. We need to get rid of Planned Parenthood and all that stuff. Wait, dude, okay, so where is this going? Like, y'all really are putting on petroleum fuel onto the fire now. I think we're speeding up the process. And so it moved away from that of men, y'all need to probably go get your paperwork. I remember I sat down with certain brothers like Nagone and other men talking about expat. I don't even know why nobody ever talks about expat. I don't even think some people even know what that is. But the conversation always comes around that of the vagina, food stamps, and some type of pimping game. But mind you, that's what also puts someone in this place. When people are bringing on pimps, hustlers, coaches around you, you might just say, we're going into snake oil circus. Now the men are totally off the rocker now. And it's an unviable circumstance. And so I understand why the environment of the women are doing what they're doing. Because the men allowed it. And they said that this is what they wanted. Welcome back to the 80s crack baby era. This is what they wanted. And so you can't now want to take them off that dopamine high because this is what they said they wanted. They wanted to see women come on and be a fool with the men that grift with them. And honestly, you got to learn that trying to keep on redeeming and bringing these people into your fold is like the meat, the flesh you cut out of the cancer. You're putting some of that flesh right back into your body. No one's going to cause an infection, and we've seen this time and time again. And so it's an ongoing cycle of people of the non-productive trying to tell you about productivity of something that they never themselves was able to produce. And so when when I get it, when people say, "Well, BMP, I see you sitting down talking to that person, and they're not black." Well, dude, what are you talking about? This is business. This is business. Remove your feelings. You're thinking like a woman. Mind you, those same women that you're telling that you're talking about, look at me, look at me. They're out there doing business with the same person that you're told to be scared of, the boogeyman. Watch out for the Latino. Dude, them same Latinos are now working in banks now in the politics. So them goddamn old folklore tales, they're not even there. And I know, and I mind you, this is what I'm saying. Like the conversations that were had were shut out. Hey, you guys, y'all need to go into diesel mechanics. Nah, man, that's that slave work. Slave work. What are you talking about? Do you know how much a diesel mechanic makes in one day?
Especially now.
But the thing about it was that was loser work. That's that you need to go get a degree. Mind you, I have nothing against the degrees because we need those guys. We need them. But then why do the guys who talking about degrees talking about getting poom poom and vagina so damn much? What's going on? And see, that's when you know it was do what I say, but don't unfuck what I do. And the men that pushed out against that were excommunicated out of the hotel. That's why I'm like, the same channels were told they're not wanted. We don't need the blame trust. They're boring. Why? Because they're telling you about that of politics. They're telling you about that of, hey guys, these are certain avenue jobs you can get into.
Yeah, man. Like we need to like install a stripper pole on the side of the brain trust,
Right.
so that way we can have people show up. Man, fuck out.
Yeah, not entertaining enough.
It's not. There we go. Hold on. Say that again. It was not what.
Enough.
It was not.
That's what BGS said.
Right.
That's what BGS said.
So
not entertaining.
So right there. You needed to be what? Entertained? What? Like, and see, this is what I'm saying, man. Like, this is, and now you're looking at the whole place burning. I'm not trying to save your burning building. Fuck that. The shit needs to burn down. Because now you wanted to be entertained so damn much. This is what got us in the situation already. This is why when politics say, hey, let me go get your stripper booty to the poll, that mind you, that was from none of the elected officials, but you was told that came from a Democratic party. Mind you, I want you to understand, I'm not Democrat. MOT and the Gone can tell you that. And mind you, we have plenty of political conversations, and they never as crazy as the radical shit that we heard here.
Well, you know, a lot of the craziness you see here is this madness. I'm not going to get into it and try to.
I understand that,
dissect that madness right now. But as I'm saying, there are two manospheres.
Yeah,
there are two manospheres currently. Okay, there are, and one will survive, the other one will not. Is there going to be entertainment in the manosphere as well? There will be. There will be. So to sit down and say that there won't, there will be. And I don't have a problem with people having a certain level of entertainment. I don't have a problem with some of that. But what I do see is, misinformation, craziness, and some of this outright lack of just study, lack of history, just totally just ass backwards on a lot of this stuff. I think it's something that we have to look to counter at a certain level. But make no mistake about it, they're two manospheres, and one is going to be dealing more with the more productive aspect of what Black men should be about. And if you're going to be productive, you can't be productive and do certain things and be helpful to Black boys, like somebody said that they want. You have to be productive. And the name of the game is, let's talk about getting productive and staying on that point. These are the most important pieces in the manosphere. Productivity piece, all right? There's no doubt about it. Your development piece, no doubt about it. These are the most important pieces, all right? And those who are outside of that, sit around here and talk to other craziness, but you'll see where that where that will lead. And it's not about sitting here focusing on women, on focusing on some female. It's not about that.
I understand that, Nicole. The thing about it right here. So, I remember I had a conversation, and I brought on. I used to have some Arabs and Latins that used to come on my panel. it was told to me, BMT, why do you have people that are not black on your panel? And I was like, oh, this happened. Listen, I know the ones they know because they were there. And I said, wait a second, we're talking about getting some contracts for hotels. You know how long a contract to build a hotel can take you? Do you know how much money that brings in?
That's some long money.
Yeah,
Now,
that's a long that's
now,
big
mind
enterprise.
you, my foolishness, but I believed in this black male space. I allowed the brothers to come up. Listen, the government allows y'all free grants to come in. Y'all shouldn't be taking black men's jobs. I'm like, wait, who's taking your job? No, nobody's taking your job, bro. Nobody took your job. BMT, what's going on? Sir, let me handle this. Let me handle this. Nobody's sir, bro. Nobody's taking your job.
They embarrass
You
like that, bro?
can apply for the same job. No, BMT, they're taking our jobs for contract. No, dude, listen.
They're not even applying for the job.
Anybody, they're asking us, can we do the damn job?
Well, okay. So I'll just speak from my perspective in regards to YouTube and especially to BMT. Here's just my point of view, and I understand that maybe not everyone will share it, but I have a detached and objective view of YouTube. I have a couple of YouTube channels, and this channel that I'm on now celebrated its 1-year anniversary recently, and just a couple of days ago I celebrated my 1-year anniversary with my other channel, which is my official channel, right? I personally didn't want to come on YouTube. I didn't have any interest, but I got contacted and they said, yeah, you can stream now. And I decided to try streaming, came up with some ideas, and that's how I found myself with the YouTube channel doing content initially. So, but I had been on panels before, and I had been on channels before for about a year or so. So I had an idea what YouTube is about. And to be brutally honest, and no disrespect to people who love YouTube and who love their channels and love everything, I've never taken YouTube seriously. I don't take it seriously as an information funnel, and I don't take it seriously as entertainment, which is what the two aspects really are for the most part. And the reason I don't, and it's not that people should have YouTube channels, have the channels, they shouldn't do stuff. In fact, on a show that I do on this channel called The YouTube Show, I talk about YouTube and various aspects of YouTube, right? And one of the things I've told people is when you come on YouTube and you have a profession, a business, a specific job, you should have a channel that deals with that. So that's how people should look at you. So that, to me, that's transparency. That's honesty. Like if you are an attorney, you should have a channel that deals with the law and what you do as an attorney. If you're a doctor, you should have a channel that deals in medicine, engineering, so forth, so that people understand this is who you are and this is what your work is. If you want to have a personal channel where you say crazy things or do crazy things, up to you. You can do that. But what I'm saying is, if you want to talk about productivity, the simplest way that I view it is you have a channel that deals with your business, your career, your profession, whatever it is, if it's specific, right? If it's that kind of aspect.
I hear you with that. I hear you with that, brother.
And
but you wouldn't want non-productive people getting around your business.
Right.
But they would try to tear it down here. That has been a consistency here.
Right. And so that's why I don't take YouTube that seriously, I don't put all my eggs in YouTube. In fact, I don't really consider it that important a resource in regards to information, because I understand you have a multitude of people and a multitude of voices, and the loudest voices drown out the sanest, logical, rational voices. That's what happens on YouTube. It's unfortunate. It's sad. It's depressing for some, not to me, but the reality is that is what YouTube is about. So I don't really, though I've made content and I've done
It's not
things on
just
YouTube.
YouTube. Hold on.
I don't
Al,
really vest any. It doesn't matter to me the way it does to other people. One, because I'm not monetized, but two, because I realize this isn't the place for that. Right? I'll give you an example. I did my 1 year anniversary. I did a special live stream. I've been a freelance writer. I was a freelance writer for 22 years. I've been a professional writer 28. I did, although my channel is not about writing, this channel here that I'm on now, it's not about writing, but I did a special live stream called The Business of Writing, right? I did it. I got specific about some aspects. My promo, the short video for that, got more views than this video that I did, The Business of Writing. And I got fairly specific at times and talked about stuff. Now, that got very few views. I wasn't surprised because the nature of YouTube is people are into what is destructive and not constructive. They're into what is, lowest common denominator, not highest common denominator. That is the nature of YouTube. And so in BMT's case, yeah, it's hard for you to do a channel where you're trying to be constructive and you're trying to actually have conversations that are about getting information out there, looking at vital aspects, looking at things that people maybe should take a look at and maybe get involved with if they have the skills, knowledge, and ability to, because you're always going to have a majority or a plurality of, for lack of a better term, losers or failures or mediocre people. And at the end of the day, when you talk about the mediocre people are not going to like the tutorials. The mediocre people are not going to like the content, the real content. The mediocre people are not going to like anything that has any value, that is instructive and productive. It's the nature of YouTube. That's why I don't put any validation in YouTube. I've done content, I've done things. You put it out there, you see how it does, but I have no expectations. So I have an entirely pragmatic, realistic, and completely non-idealistic view of YouTube. YouTube really isn't the place for even though it's an information medium, it's not really the place for it because the people don't want the information. Some people do, most don't, because they don't they don't see YouTube that way. And realistically, YouTube isn't built that way. It really isn't. It's built for clicks and views. It's built for people to come and see interesting, fascinating trash and garbage. It's built, you look at a lot of channels now. What are the channels that, well, not all channels, right? But what are some of the channels that get the talk and the buzz? Entirely negative, as I think Man of Tomorrow noted, nihilistic, destructive, right? It's the nature of YouTube. So at the end of the day, I kind of feel sorry for you at BMT because I know you're trying. I know you're trying to do the right thing for people. But at the end of the day, you're fighting a losing battle. I wish you well. I hope you continue doing what you're doing, but you're fighting a losing battle, in my view. Again, just my observation of YouTube.
Well, let me say this. Many of us who are in business, we actually have to live in the real world. And in the real world, demographics matter. And so, in terms of creating products and services to sell to people, that's what I mean. Marketing is centered around changing people's tastes. Okay. The reason why so many companies put so much research, spend so much money in R&D is because they're trying to get the pulse of people so they can better tailor their marketing strategies to these people to get them to buy their product. Okay. And so when we look at this Black demographic in particular, um, especially as it relates to black male business. Um, we're dealing with a demographic that does not take black business seriously across the board. Okay. Now, we do have organs that actually speak to black business interests, like Black Enterprise magazine, for example. So we have those things that are in existence. The problem is that unfortunately, for the past 100 years, um, the intellectual crowd, the pseudo intellectual, especially when you start talking about your pro blacks and stuff like that, have been the dominant voice as it relates to how to best advance black people's interests moving forward. It didn't used to be like that. There was a point in time where the black business class were much more instrumental in advancing black people's interests moving forward. At the height of that, obviously, was Booker T. Washington. So we have gotten away from that, and what you have is a bunch of, as MOT has talked about, nihilists. You have apathetic people who have intellectualized creativity out of black people to the point that black people and business is all about creativity to the point that we actually will throw shade on people, on black business people, especially black men, and you don't really see this mindset in other groups of people. Most other groups of people are smart enough to recognize that they want to support businesses in their group, because the more you support businesses in your group, the more the more powerful your group can be, because your group has the ability to build the institution that you need best for you. But in this particular group, as far as black people, we're doing the opposite. There are a whole bunch of stupid white people on YouTube, but there's a whole bunch of smart white people on YouTube as well that's giving content that people pay for. They're giving great content. The problem is that when it comes to business specifically, and I felt BMT when he said that. When it comes to business, we act silly as hell, and this is the reason why we're such a consumer class and a dependent class, because the less support you show black businesses means the more you're dependent on other groups of people for the products and services you need. That's ass backwards. That's black people across the board. And until black people change that fundamental distinction within themselves, black people are going to keep singing the same song and dance, because they're still going to be in a dependent standpoint. And it's not because of lack of resources. Black people got almost $250 billion, almost $1 trillion of spending power in the United States. Black people collectively have more spending power than some nations in Africa. So if you do not support your business class, who's going to advance your interests, you're going to be singing the same song for years to come, complaining about the system, because you do not do what's necessary in a system, which is be about business, so you could have money to support your political interests, so you can have people represent you in this system, because that's the way the game goes.
You, Ron, but I agree with you. This space was told we're here to help black boys. That was the first cardinal sin. It sounded like it was like a welfare project that the school board comes up and says, "Hey, we're help boys with like on Ritalin and stuff. We're help to build better men." But then they just put y'all on drugs, and it was told, "Tell me what I want to hear, but not what I need to do, or show me how I can just do better." Because when you go through a rehabilitation process, if this is what this space was supposed to be, y'all were not supposed to be here long. You were not. It's like a university. You don't stay at that university forever. After a while, they're like, "Hey, man, like, you're just not getting it, bro. I don't think this course is for you." You're just not getting it. And that was the thing about this. You were never meant to graduate. To all you men who are hearing me, this is why I stepped away from this space, from this stuff. I was lucratively doing good, but I also saw this is not lucrative talk I would ever want to be played in my lobby, in my office, or around any of my employees. This is stuff that will get you fired. Y'all do understand that, right? This is the stuff that literally why YouTube is now the way it is on its policies. Like, hey, some of these talking points, we got to get y'all the hell up out of here because it's not viable sociological answers. Like, and that's the thing about it. Like, it's actually doing more damage than good. Where now they're like, dang, like YouTube daddy got to step in. Like, hey man, like we got to try to save them from like fully keep on crunching on them cyanide rat pills because they really overdoing it now. So it amazes me the same people that are saying that we're taking back masculinity find their masculinity through that of the mouths of women. The same people that talk about, hey, like this is a space to build up and actually teach y'all about how to deal with the court system. You know, there's a few men that are actually in the chat that actually have retained and got their children back. I have yet seen the men run to their channels on legal financial advice on how to get their children. Why? Because it was never about getting back your doggone kids. It was never about doggone accountability. It was never about that. The same lies that keep being told. I mean, you could like, if I could burn down y'all church, I would have been done it long time ago. It's just I know it will keep being rebuilt, and it was by any means necessary. It's so crazy now. This is why different other groups now come here and they exploit y'all because the space is made for exploitation.
Yeah.
This is where they try out the atomic bombs. Is over
Yeah.
here.
I mean, look at
Yeah.
Vegas, man.
And right. And that's why I stated that I don't take YouTube seriously as a conduit of information, even though you can easily bring out information on YouTube, easily do it and easily try to teach people or instruct or inform them about things. I don't take it seriously, partly because of some of what you noted, BMT, which is a lot of, how do I put it, not so much nihilistic, but anarchistic and really, I would say open warfare. I mean, I've seen people engage. I mean, I've seen, at least in one space, which I will not name, I've seen content creators, or I'm aware of content creators that were paid to attack other content creators. I've seen people call the cops. I've seen people call people's jobs. I've seen people go after each other, attack each other, and so forth. So when you understand that this is a part of, maybe not all of, but a part of what YouTube is about, it doesn't make sense to, even though if you're making content, it doesn't make sense to invest as much effort. Like I said before, the recommendation I have on my YouTube show is, yeah, do a channel that deals with being a professional or a business or your specific job or what have you, and put that out there on YouTube. But at the same time, what I would say is, don't think that's, do that, but don't think that's going to really have much of an impact, to be brutally honest. It may have an impact, but for the most part, it won't. I say that in regard to transparency, like giving people an idea who you are professionally, business-wise, job-wise, etc. Honesty, transparency, right? But at the end of the day, YouTube really isn't the place for serious information. Even though I found a lot of things that are informational here about a great number of things, great number of subjects, literature, history, art, whatever. At the end of the day, it really isn't the ideal medium. Sad to say for this, because of the multitudes of people, the various people who will make their views and opinions known, and will, in some respects, make an effort to tear that down. And again, it's hard to be productive when you're in a medium that allows a lot of destructive behavior and activity. So I'm a pragmatist and I'm a realist, and I just don't invest the time. Like I said, I use the example of the stream that I did about the business of writing. Very few viewed. Now, I never gave any thought as to how many people would watch it, but the promo for that got more views than the actual stream. And it's at the end of the day, you go, of course, you just put it out there. People want it, they want it. If they don't, they don't. Nothing more you can do about it. But at the end of the day, YouTube just isn't the place. The skills, the backgrounds, the networking is going to take place outside of the internet. The internet, you may contact people, but that's how it's always been. People who are serious about building themselves economically, professionally, educationally, they interact with professionals, educated people, and people in their industry or economic strata. And they do so maybe using the internet, but they really do so outside the internet. So at the end of the day, maybe this is used as a slight tool, but the real work goes on outside of YouTube, outside of the internet. That's the reality. And that's what the critics and instigators and detractors and provocateurs do not understand and will never understand.
Yeah, but you gotta understand this, that this is the Homestead Act land. You know, the land was free, it was given. Yeah, you have to do what whites did, man. They left those people on that Homestead Act land. They don't interact with those people. They know they out there, but they don't really interact with those people unless they need something from them specifically, which is very little, which is why they left the Homestead Act land in the first place. So you have to look at the broken man and the broken women issues and problems in the relationship shit as the Homestead Act land. That was given to people, it's theirs, and they don't want to sell it, and they feel the way they feel on that land. We can always move to other places and do things. This is why I don't even worry about people who's not coming along. It's just the fact that I'm not handing them any jobs whenever I do get my ability to produce. I'm just gonna hand that shit to actual professionals who actually put the actual work in that I have. And that's how you have to be able to move. You got to be able to point to a group of failures so that way you can define your own success, and you have to compare. Like the losers don't want to be compared to anybody else at all. They want to see their specific set of circumstances as special, and they can't be compared to anybody. And I'm totally fine with that. I'm just at this point right here. They're like, oh, well, why are you pointing it out? I'm not pointing it out because I want the audience. I'm pointing it out so that way everybody else can know what's going on here. Like all this is the greatest social experiment ever created for black people. You see everything. You see the historical track record of like 70 years from the productive
Facts.
people not being actually listened to the bullshit artists rocketing to the top on some whole shit. And it's like, I'm not worried about it. This is the Homestead Act. This is Homestead Act land. And those people who want to live out there in the middle of nowhere with no resources and the same complaints, you got to let them stay there. And that's all I would want for those people. But I got to be able to get up out of here. So let's go with some final thoughts. Rael.
Once again, thanks for having me up here. Piece of the panel and chat. Once again, um, you know, I'll say this. Hearing BMT's story is one of many stories that black businessmen specifically typically tell a lot when it comes to black men specifically. I remember seeing a story on CNN when the economy crashed in '07, '08, and it was a black dude who had a construction company. I think it was actually here in Texas too, and he actually was saying how he couldn't get any black men to work for him, so he had to hire Mexicans who were here illegally. And it was one of the weirdest stories I had ever seen. And the irony of it all is that we are in a position as black men collectively to take advantage of a lot of things right now that we need to take advantage of. For all this woke stuff that's out here, there's a lot of white people that's willing to put some money out there. Take advantage of all the white guilt you can right now. Take advantage and get yourself up so you can build this business stratosphere so that the coming generations behind us don't have to start at ground zero. If we're going to talk about things like generational wealth and stuff like that, you're going to have to incorporate business into that frame. And so, at the end of the day, for men, it's about the institutions. The institutions are what best represent you, best defends your interests, whether they're business, whether they're political. You need to be about building those institutions. Otherwise, you just don't have any voice out here. And I'll leave it there.
I'll say mine real quick and shout out to you, Rael. I didn't even know you was up here, bro. Um, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, I'm not giving out no free handouts. I'm not saying no more of that goofy black this, black that first stuff because honestly, the same way y'all compete for these cash apps and these coaching and all that stuff, y'all gonna get out here and compete like everybody else in the world. And I want you to understand that these talking points right here, see the government's already starting to pin down on talking points. Almost to the point where now they're gonna catch up with you. They're gonna start locking y'all asses up. They're gonna start slowing down your inability to do stuff. That's why certain platforms are pushing y'all out of here. There's no room for that. You don't gotta believe me. Go ahead and look it up. Y'all think all these title things by the federal government keep happening. So it's a laugh situation. So you're finding drifting talking points. And I'm trying to tell y'all, black men, y'all better leave this stuff alone because certain states are starting to look back at your digital footprint and let them start hearing these talking points that y'all have. Hey, I don't think this is a job for you. I don't think this is a space for you. I don't think you need to be here. And that's it. And they'll let you go. You need to start focusing on things that are viable, things that actually can do something. Like, I don't know, fix your credit. Learn how to fix your legal cases. Learn how to start getting some of y'all stuff expunged some of y'all questionable backgrounds. Yeah, I'll say it. Some of y'all got a lot of other work other than worrying about a woman to be worrying about that y'all afraid to actually start dealing with because worrying about poom poom is the easier thing. And see, you gotta also watch out for some of the older dudes that keep talking about the blame shame game because I can promise you a lot of them, when it was their turn, they doggone was down for the foolishness. Now all of a sudden they trying to play messiah prophets and teachers and mentors and stuff. They weren't doing that. They weren't walking around with no Bible. They were out there causing the fires. Now all of a sudden they want to be the fire chiefs. So y'all need to be very mindful of your priests and priestesses and prophets, where they talking from. A lot of them are actually the same people that are telling y'all what to watch out for. It's actually them. The wolves are actually preaching to the sheep. Now, I'm not, y'all can go on, take it for whatever y'all want to. I just find it very interesting. This space is anti what it was supposed to be about. And these men and women like y'all on this doped up philosophy of an ideology. They don't want to see you to think for yourself. They don't want it to be where you graduate out of this space. Stay here and keep paying your tuition. They don't want you to graduate. And the people who are trying to help you get out of this and move on with your life, they're getting expelled from that of the Colosseum school of thought. Because they understand this is not supposed to be the end game. That you're supposed to be moving and getting on with your life. Don't get mad at everybody else because they're taking advantage and you're too afraid to do what you're supposed to do. Thank you, MOT, for allowing me. Thank you, brothers, for allowing me up here. See y'all.
All right, cool, man. You have a nice one. The Al Show.
Right. All right. So at the end of the day, I guess a couple points. One that I noted, I guess the main point would be I have a pragmatic view of YouTube and a realistic view of YouTube. And that is that from what I have seen and what I have observed, it really isn't a serious medium. I don't know if they want it, the powers that be at Google and Alphabet want to hear that, but the reality is that it's not really a serious medium of exchange, meaning exchange of information, even though you can instruct and you can, exchange information. And the reason that it is, I think, is that in many respects, it's become like television, right? Because it is a broadcast medium, but it's become like television. And very early on, the idea of television was that it would be a medium that would, in a way, teach or instruct. But it became essentially a medium of commercial. It became a commercial medium, at least network television did, and of course, cable as well. But it became a medium of basically financial exchange. And at the end of the day, though you can find out things about information on television, television is really more about entertainment, right? Getting you to watch commercials, really about getting you to watch advertising commercials. That's why they put the programming there. In that sense, that's what YouTube is becoming. It's becoming like network TV and cable. It's becoming a place where, you have the ads on these channels, and it's trying to get you to watch the ads by getting you to watch the programming. In this case, the programming are the videos. So the more outrageous they are, the crazier they are, the more unbound by any form of control or rationality or reason, the more exciting, the more energizing, the more gossipy. Thus, the more people will watch, the more clicks and views. So what YouTube has become is, instead of becoming a place kind of like a David Susskind or a William F. Buckley, if you don't know who those are, you can go Google them afterwards. Instead of having a place like that entirely, what you have is a place that's become large, more Jerry Springer and Morton Downey Jr., more outrageous, or Geraldo, more outrageous, more out there, more anything goes. And that inhibits the flow. It inhibits a kind of rational flow of information and thus benefit. And so at the end of the day, that's the fallacy of YouTube. If you can work within the fallacies of YouTube, so be it. I have a couple channels myself, but at the end of the day, I don't expect much out of YouTube. If you want to benefit, you have to do the work outside of the internet, outside of YouTube. You got to educate yourself, got to read, and you got to put what you read into effect. So education, reading, networking outside of YouTube, outside of the internet. That's the only way that you're really going to be productive in whatever you're going to do. And with that, I bid you all adieu. Thank you for having me.
All right, cool. Thanks for coming on. Spawn the program.
Yeah, man. So like everybody was saying, like it's not really enough people here to actually get work done and get some shit moving, like I don't have a problem with working with other races, and I think the problem with people is that they expect I if let's say somebody is racist, I mean you just move on to somebody that isn't, man. Like everybody that come to this country might have a bias, but you find the people that don't and you work with them, man, because like we clearly see in this space people don't really give a fuck about that shit. You feel me? And when it comes to this space, it's like just moving forward, I like BMT said, like you're not really meant to be here forever. But if you're gonna be here, you're gonna have to move the conversation forward. So just moving forward, man. I'm just trying to talk on some different shit and move with the people that actually on something.
And if once you start working with those, like I think one of the greatest harms done to us black people, period, was trying to do this shit in an all black format and not really moving with um, competent people of other races immediately. And and this is what allowed the over procreation of these problems, because now foolishness and stagnation became the voice of the day, not accomplishment. People thought there was accomplishment because they got access to a woman. Like what kind of shit is that? But it's that it's a new age, man. It's a new world, and if they can't live in it, that's their problem. And I really want to be able to move the conversation forward. I don't give a shit about how many people I lose. I know I've lost 1,000 people over past. Man, I don't care about none of that shit. I don't care about none of that.
Yeah,
At the
it
end of
just
the day,
subscriber supremacy over here, man.
I don't give a fuck about that, dude. At the end of the day, it doesn't affect my bank account. Doesn't affect the contracts that I get from the federal government. Doesn't account. It doesn't really affect anything for real for me here. Yes, I could talk about bullshit, and yes, I could specifically put all types of goofy bullshit behind it, but it ain't gonna move the shit forward. And I'm trying to move this shit because the better ground floor that you create today, other people ain't got to go through this shit tomorrow. So we went from this, and people got to be honest about this shit. We went from having all the fight in the world to no opportunity to having all the opportunity in the world and no fucking fight. And it's fucked up to say that, but it's fucking true.
Yeah,
It's
it's
true.
fucking sad. It's true,
Yeah,
man.
man, look, I'd
Like we
rather say that shit
forfeited
out
that shit
loud.
up, dog.
Yeah, we forfeited. Like the moment, like when BMT was talking about, because I go through this shit too, where other people are taking advantage of those things through the person of color shit, and they be like, well, they taking our shit. The fuck you mean our shit? You're not participating in our shit. The fuck you talking about?
You know what I'm saying? Like I would talk to my homeboy. I think I have was he kind of younger than me, so I try to put him on game and shit. He was talking about like the immigrants that coming over here, and he was getting mad at like they were taking the jobs. But I'm like, bro, I'm not even trying to work those type of jobs. Like they work in the fields, like they mainly coming here just for the opportunity so their kids can get a better situation, you feel me? So I don't have a problem with them taking them jobs. So I'm not really gonna even focus on that. So I'm not even on that, bro. You feel me? So you gotta take advantage of the actual shit that gonna get you placed to where like, yeah, you can make your bread and you can move.
And at the end of the day, man, it's excuses for not moving forward, man. That's some pathetic ass shit. I don't want to hear that shit no more, man. I don't
Yeah.
want to hear that shit out of
Nah, a
nobody.
lot of them would just want to be ground level at this point, man, and that's just is what it is, man. But yeah, like you said, man, like I just want to work with people who trying to move forward. I guess this is the space over here. All them other niggas trying to restart this gender war shit. I mean, it's just crazy, bro.
God damn it, they're trying like a motherfucker, ain't they?
They're trying, they
They
really
are
trying,
trying
dog.
like a motherfucker to restart this goddamn.
Well, MLT, you still there? Yeah, so they're definitely trying to restart the gender war and shit, man. And honestly, we not in the time and space for that shit. It's just time to move this shit forward, man. And I like the people that's over here, man. We got a lot of productive people that we can actually work with that's on some tangible shit. You feel me? We got different people from different industries that actually have the knowledge to share with people. And we really need to bring younger people over here because, we really they don't have a space for that shit here. You feel me? Like, when you talk about people from like the Peace Network and all this other shit, like I can't really recommend those channels to anyone that I know or that anyone that is younger to me. You feel me? So like just moving forward, man. Everybody just focus on you, man. Get your bread. These problems ain't really your motherfucking problems. And nigga, just move forward, man. But I'm gonna head out, man. I don't know what happened to MOT though.
What's going on, Rubber Man, man? Sorry about that. My fucking phone overheated for a second. Damn it, that shit cut everything off. But I want to thank you guys for coming through on the match tomorrow. Man, look, don't worry about these dudes who ain't doing shit. They're going to try to restart this gender war out of anything. And that's all the thing that they're capable of. You don't have to worry about that stuff. You can always move forward. And you don't need these people helping anything. And I'm telling you, once you start taking action, you no longer need the black manosphere for anything. It's only an information space to inform you about the actual of your actions for other failures. Once you start taking action, you won't need the previous manosphere. You don't need the more upgraded version of like what I'm talking about. But hey, you want to be over there, you don't want to take no action. No one's going to force you to do that. You can expect help from anybody. So with that said, I want to thank you guys for coming through on the marriage tomorrow.
Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Nah, Taz, man, like, my fucking phone overheated. That's what happened. What's going on, man? Thanks for coming through on the man tomorrow. You guys have a really nice rest of y'all day.